There are few things in life more haunting than the realization that a once inspiring future is no longer available to you, that the door that you thought you could certainly always walk through is now closed and locked, and there's no way to go back in time. This is one of the most painful themes in literature: regret, missed chances, the conversations that were never had, the love that was never pursued, the life that was almost, but ultimately never lived. Books about missed opportunities hit so hard because all of us, if we're honest, have some version of this in our lives. So today I want to talk about 5 books that showcase regret and missed chances. The first is The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is probably the greatest book ever written about regret, or certainly up there. It follows Stevens, an aging butler, as he looks back on his life of service and devotion and professionalism as a butler. But what makes this book really devastating is Stevens' inability to grasp the tragedy of his own experience, at least initially. The story is told through his distinctive, restrained voice and his proud dignity, his pride in his service, his pride in having suppressed his personal feeling in favor of professionalism kind of slowly gives way to an admission that he missed out. He sacrificed so much. The possibility of love, possibility of more, becoming the wrong kind of man, perhaps mistakenly putting his service to the wrong cause. All of these themes feature strongly in The Remains of the Day, and it's a haunting tragedy of a life quietly mislived. And I think the reason that this stays with so many people is because the book asks a very difficult but ultimately important question, which is, do you only understand your life after it's passed? The Remains of the Day. The second book here is Stoner by John Williams. I read this recently. Now, Stoner is about a quiet university professor who, from the outside, his life looks very uneventful. He discovers literature, becomes a teacher, marries unhappily, endures a lot of disappointments in his career and family and life. But the book is, again, very devastating because it captures the way that life can be full of meaning and yet full of missed chances at the same time. Stoner is not a dramatic hero or anything. He doesn't conquer any worlds. He doesn't really conquer any even small experiences, and he often fails to act. He misses chances for love and freedom and happiness and maybe even self-respect in some cases. But yet there's this quiet dignity all the way throughout and beauty, moments of beauty all the way, and a quiet devotion to literature and teaching that makes Stoner so powerful. It's not that to say like life was wasted, but it also doesn't pretend that there wasn't moments that could have been better either. A life can still be meaningful and marked with regret, and I think Stoner really showcases this as well. A person can fail to be fully free. Now, the third one here is Persuasion by Jane Austen. This is probably one of the most beautifully written novels about second chances. Anne Elliot and Captain Wentworth are great characters. And that initial persuasion to reject a love because of lack of fortune and then return years later, it's a famous story, but ultimately, Anne has to live with the knowledge that she gave up the person she loved because she allowed other people to decide for her, at least initially. You'll have to read it to see what happens ultimately, but what makes Persuasion so moving is it's not just a classic romance. It's about the cost of not trusting your instincts, not trusting your instincts when they're based in wisdom, and trusting things that can disguise themselves as wisdom, class, etc. Now, Austen gives Anne the possibility of renewal, but not everyone gets a second chance in literature. In the case of Anne, she does, but it's not a cheap second chance either, which is what makes this such a great novel. The years mattered, the opportunity mattered, the time that was lost mattered, and the possibility of returns has a weight to it. That is why Persuasion is so emotionally resonant. It's such an important book. It understands and also believes in grace. Now, the fourth book here is a separate piece by John Knowles. I'm reading this now, so I don't want to pretend that I have the final verdict, but it clearly belongs in this category. It's a novel about memory and youth and friendship, about the terrible things we only understand after the fact. And it looks back on adolescence from the distance of adulthood, from the distance that makes it important. Because when we're young, we often don't experience and understand the meaning of what we're doing. We act, out of insecurity or jealousy or pride or whatever. And we do this at every stage, I guess. But later on, we see the damage more clearly. It's one of the reasons stories about youth, I think, can be so painful, so full of regret so often in great literature. There are moments that might seem small on the surface, but they're enormous in our memory, right? A betrayal, a choice that was made in an instant had repercussions. A separate piece seems to really understand that the past is not really past, as Faulkner would say, and you're still trying to interpret it. Sometimes regret is not simply about what happened. It's about returning to that memory again and again, reading it differently each time, trying to understand who you are, who you were when it happened, and who you are going to be. Now, the fifth one we have to talk about is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This is one of the great novels for longing for a life that may never have existed in the first place, but is still powerful. Gatsby is obsessed with recovering this past, this ideal of Daisy. He loves an idea, though. He doesn't love a real person, right? The possibility of recreating an image, the right moment, the right house, the right party, the right dream, and all of this for a person that's not real. It's just such a tragic vision. His missed opportunities. He didn't just lose Daisy, right? It's the fantasy, that belief that enough wealth, enough dazzling will be able to return one to a time before everything went wrong, before everything fell off the track. But it doesn't work that way. The past can never be recovered. It can never be undone. And sometimes we dream about chasing the past, but it's already corrupted by that in the dream and by the dream. And this is why Gatsby remains so powerful. It's not only about wealth or opulence or romance or the American dream. It's about the danger of building your life around a moment that is past. Now, another one that I want to read here is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This is a TBR for this theme. I haven't read it yet. I've heard great things about it, but the premise is clearly connected to that, to the regret, alternative lives that are lived. And I think that exploring this and the lives, that one could live would be very comforting and terrifying at the same time. Because we all wonder about that. What if I'd chosen differently? What if I'd gone there or did this instead? And I think these stories remind us of choices. But they also remind us that regret can become a teacher. The point is not just to live without regret. I don't think that's possible at all. The point is to pay attention in the moments, to take risks, to stop waiting for the perfect version of yourself before you begin your life. And I think that's actually one of the themes I keep finding my way back to in my own writing. The danger of waiting, the danger of assuming there will always be more time, the danger of believing you have to become something more, someone better, someone more mature before you're able to start. Danger of believing that you're not there yet. Because often in life, you're waiting for something, but the race has already begun. So it's important not to continue waiting. So those are 5 books about regret and missed chances. The Remains of the Day, Stoner, Persuasion, A Separate Piece, and The Great Gatsby, and one that I'd like to read. But let me know in the comments, what are books about regret or missed opportunities that really stayed with you? And what are the ones that you most want to read? And if you want, you can check out some of these videos here, like and subscribe, and join the community.